Hello, everybody. So, the topics I will cover today are 1. The nature of personal choice. 2. I respect your choice to be vegan. Why can't you accept my choice to eat meat? And 3. Forcing people to be vegan. So, first of all, the nature of personal choice. Firstly, when appealing to personal choice, you have to understand the first word there is personal. By its nature, a choice which includes a direct victim is not a personal choice. Stabbing a random person to death is a choice that someone can personally make, but choosing to style your hair into a mullet is a personal choice. It's important to note all laws and all moral frameworks, including yours, limit the choices that people personally make in order to protect the rights of others. As the animal agriculture industry directly causes animal abuse, murder, and creates great environmental harm, with animals and the environment being its direct victim, the only way that it could be consistently argued that it is a moral human right to make the choice to murder animals would be to also argue that it's a human right to make the choice to murder people, torture and kill dogs and cats, and burn down rainforests. And by extension, and I'm going to get into this more later, even though putting food in your mouth feels like an extremely personal choice, directly supporting this industry and demanding that it carries out these actions is also not a personal choice. Secondly, if the choices that one makes should not be restricted at all, regardless of their validity or whether or not they victimize someone, then wouldn't restricting the ability of the animal agriculture industry to produce, as well as restricting the ability of you to buy and consume their products, also be a personal choice for whatever entity enforced it, even if it was completely arbitrary? As you can see, the argument that no choice that someone makes should ever be restricted, regardless of its validity or if it harms anybody else, nullifies itself. You may have already noticed the connection between this and the argument I've already been building with forcing people to be vegan, but I will get to that later. Thirdly, the choice in question is not regarding whether someone is able to eat a certain food or not. It is regarding whether that person is able to order someone to be tortured and killed or not. I don't care what you put in your mouth. You can put cock in your mouth or chess pieces in your mouth. Leave a comment if you understood that reference. I care about the suffering and death of animals, as well as the environmental damage, which you are directly and necessarily paying for. And I need to make one thing clear. This is absolutely not guilt by tangential economic association. The abuses are literally the service that you are directly paying for. A legal parallel to this is if someone hires a hitman to murder another human, that person is equally responsible for that person's murder. In this situation, the person's personal choice to talk to or pay someone isn't exactly restricted, but their personal choice to murder someone by proxy is. So, what I'm saying is basically that personal choice does make every action morally neutral, but for something to be your personal choice, it has to be personal. It cannot be something that you impose onto a victim, even through the supply and demand chain. And another example of this is the purchase of child pornography. Yes, the child on the tape is already raped no matter what you do, no matter if you buy it or not, no matter if you consume it or not. But you're demanding for that to happen, and you're financially supporting the operation. Therefore, you are at least partially responsible. You are under arrest for possession of 6 terabytes of child pornography. You sick fuck. Whoa, officer. Can't you just respect my personal choice to support child pornography? After all, I do support your personal choice not to. I hadn't really thought about it that way. You're right, it is just your personal choice to purchase and own several terabytes of child pornography. You have a nice day, sir. Stay safe. And if you don't put the restriction on personal choice to not include a victim, and personal choice just means do whatever the fuck you want all the time, then literally any action is morally permissible with no limits, and this completely destroys the very concept of morality. Here's a bonus argument. Animal products are very damaging to human health. While I'm not against people harming their own health in principle, your diet does put a strain on the healthcare industry, so your personal choice to buy and eat animal products does happen to also indirectly harm me personally. Secondly, I respect your choice to be vegan. Why can't you respect my choice to eat meat? Firstly, I want to say that just because I don't respect your choice or choices does not mean that I don't respect you as a person. So, next, in the most respectful way possible, what gives you the right to respect my choice to be vegan? I'm making the right decision that doesn't cause the suffering and death of animals, while you're making the wrong decision that does. We're not comparing two morally equal choices here. You and I both know that your choice is morally wrong, which is why you're begging to be let off the hook by vegans, and vegans aren't begging to be let off the hook by you, unless they have pretty bad social anxiety or something. Here's another thing. My vegan choice, again, doesn't have a victim, meaning unless you hold the moral position that it is morally wrong to not murder and enslave animals, my vegan choice doesn't violate any ethical standard that you hold. However, the choice that you make to pay for animals to suffer and die for no reason does violate the vegan moral standard, which is basically that animals should not be abused. So, already the olive branch that you're extending only extends one way. So, why would I respect something that's unethical? That's not a reasonable thing to ask of me. And what exactly is there even to respect about carnism? Is an action respectable just because someone can do it? If you're asking me to respect that you can do something, then okay, yeah, I know that. But what you're really asking is for me to validate your choice, which I just can't do. Finally, forcing people to be vegan. So, with the exception of children, nobody forces anyone to be vegan. And with parenting, part of the job description is to instill good moral values onto your children. This includes being anti-animal abuse, aka vegan. If you walked into your backyard and your kid was cutting up a stray dog that he or she had caught in a bear trap, it would be your responsibility to force them to not do that, basically. And furthermore, you could say by the same metric that meat-eating parents force their children to eat meat, except their decision is the wrong one and the vegan decision is the correct one. Aside from that specific case, nobody can force anyone else to be vegan. Even though we do have the moral right to defend animals, I can't force you to do the right thing. I can only give you the truth. People say that advocacy via the internet especially is forcing. That couldn't be further from the truth. You can just close the tab. Control W, by the way. That's to close the tab, in case you were wondering. But if you are not vegan, you actually are forcing your beliefs onto animals, the belief that they are food. And in terms of consequences, you are by proxy forcing a knife into their throats. You are forcing them into gas chambers. And I mean, there's so many other animal rights abuses that I could literally go on for 20 minutes. In conclusion, not everyone has the right to do whatever they want all the time because it can interfere with the negative rights of others. As I mentioned before, this is the very foundation of the law. So the thing is, in order to protect animal rights, your ability to buy murdered animals from what is essentially a concentration camp, let's be real, should be restricted, and this should be done via law which guarantees basic rights to animals, basic legal rights to animals, and that law in practicality is force. The thing is, nobody can ever force you to adopt an ethical philosophy, but we hypothetically can and should force you to not abuse the rights of others. But when it comes to vegans just trying to convince you to not support the suffering and death of animals, force is literally completely irrelevant, as it is nowhere in the conversation. Okay? I hope that it was clear that what I was just talking about was hypothetical situations that do not exist in reality in the world that we live in at this time. Did that sentence make sense? I think so. Just because you're feeling pressured doesn't mean you're being forced, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that you are being pressured. There's a good chance that the vegan is just telling you the facts, and it's your own conscience that's pressuring you, since deep down you don't like animal abuse. Hey, I don't blame you. I don't either. That's why I'm vegan, and you ought to be as well.